"Don't wait up, scholar girl," Vanessa said with a smirk as they slipped out. Vanessa climbed first, then Veronica, then Mary, their skirts flashing briefly as they straddled the concrete. They dropped to the other side and ran to the car. Their boyfriends were waiting. Jay, slim and smooth-talking, kissed Veronica on the cheek. Toby, the one with the gold watch, wrapped an arm around Vanessa. A third, nicknamed Cruz, slid a drink toward Mary. "To the Queens," Toby toasted. "To the Queens," the others echoed. Sit tight and get ready. This is a story you won't forget. If you enjoy powerful, real-life inspired tales like this one, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. The morning sun slanted through the high windows of Queen Prestigious Girls' Boarding School, painting long gold stripes across the polished corridor floors. The walls, painted a fading cream, were lined with notice boards, rules, exam timetables, and smiling photos from last term's speech and prize-giving day. But the moment you entered the hostel block, something in the air changed. It wasn't just the scent of detergent or the faint aroma of jollof rice drifting from the kitchen. It was the hush of authority, the invisible weight of three girls who ruled like queens. Vanessa, Veronica, and Mary. Everybody in school knew those names. Teachers knew them, too, though most pretended otherwise. Vanessa, tall and bold, had a voice that carried like a trumpet. She laughed loudly, walked like a catwalk model, and called the shots for her little kingdom. Veronica, shorter but sharper, had eyes that missed nothing. She collected secrets like coins, filing them away for a day she might need to use them. Mary, with her glowing skin and dimples, looked like the face of a beauty cream ad. She was impulsive, reckless, always craving excitement. Together they were unstoppable. If they broke a rule, they laughed it off. If a teacher scolded them, their parents' donations to the school silenced any punishment. Girls whispered stories about them at night, how they smuggled in forbidden snacks, how they wore designer perfumes instead of the cheap roll-on everyone else used, how they treated prefects like errand girls. In a school where most students tiptoed through rules, the trio strolled, confident and untouchable. Into this world walked Glory. She arrived on a Monday morning with a small, faded suitcase and a box of books strapped with a rope. Her father, a lean man in a threadbare shirt, had pressed a 100 naira note into her palm at the gate. "Study hard, Glory," he said, his voice breaking with pride. "This scholarship is our chance. Don't let anything distract you." She had nodded, her throat tight. This was her dream, a school with modern labs, a library as big as a hall, teachers who spoke polished English. She was determined to make every second count. The hostel matron had led her down the corridor. "Room B12, she said briskly. "Your roommates are already inside. Good girls. Just keep to yourself and focus on your studies." Her tone was neutral, but something in her eyes flickered, warning or pity, Glory couldn't tell. She opened the door to B12. 3 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Vanessa lay sprawled on the top bunk, scrolling through a glossy magazine. Veronica sat at the desk, painting her nails a glittering gold. Mary was perched on the windowsill, humming along to music only she could hear. They looked at Glory like a cat looks at a mouse. "Who's this?" Vanessa asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'm Glory," she said softly. "The new student." Mary laughed. "Glory. Like story." "Scholarship girl," Veronica murmured without looking up. "I heard she came first in the entrance exams." Glory's cheeks warmed. She dragged her suitcase to the empty bed at the corner. The room was large, 4 bunks, 2 desks, a wardrobe, but it felt smaller under their gaze. She unpacked slowly, textbooks, notebooks, 2 neatly folded uniforms, and a framed picture of her parents. Vanessa watched her like one would watch a street performer. "You like reading?" Vanessa asked finally. "Yes," Glory said. "I want to study medicine." Mary snorted. "Medicine? You'll turn into a nerd." "Leave her," Veronica said, blowing on her nails. "She won't last." Glory said nothing. She tucked her books into the small shelf by her bed, arranging them by subject. Her heart thudded, but she forced herself to breathe evenly. She had promised herself she wouldn't let anyone break her focus. For the next few days, she tried to keep her head down. In class, she took careful notes, answered when called upon, and avoided the trio's corner. But their presence was everywhere, laughing at the back of the classroom, passing folded notes, arriving late and slipping out early. Teachers sighed but said little. In the dining hall they claimed the best seats. In the hostel they played loud music when others were trying to sleep. Glory pressed her pillow over her ears and read under the dim glow of a rechargeable lamp. It was on the fourth night that she saw the phones. She was on her bunk, cross-legged, highlighting her biology notes. The room smelled faintly of nail polish remover and expensive body spray. Vanessa unzipped a sleek leather bag, pulled out an iPhone with a glittering case, and began scrolling. Veronica joined her with another phone, tapping messages quickly. Mary giggled as she took a selfie, tilting her head to catch the light. Phones were strictly forbidden. Every student signed a form at admission. No phones, no exceptions. Confiscation meant suspension. Yet here they were, flaunting them like trophies. Glory's eyes widened before she could stop herself. Vanessa caught the look. "What?" she asked sharply. "Nothing," Glory said quickly, dropping her gaze to her book. Veronica put down her phone and leaned closer. Her smile was small and cold. "If this ever gets out, Glory," she paused, letting the words hang like a knife, "you will regret the day you were born." Mary laughed softly. "She won't tell. She's too scared." Glory swallowed hard. "I won't tell," she whispered. The room seemed to grow smaller. She bent over her book, but the words swam on the page. Her scholarship, her dreams, everything felt fragile, like glass. From that night, the balance shifted. In class, when she raised her hand to answer a question, Mary whispered loud enough for others to hear, "Teacher's pet." Vanessa smirked. Veronica's eyes glinted. When she walked past them in the corridor, she heard giggles and felt stares at her back. She forced herself to ignore it, but each laugh felt like a thorn. One evening after prep, as she returned to the hostel, she found the trio sitting in a circle on the floor, their heads bent over something shiny. It was an envelope, embossed with gold letters. Mary waved it like a prize. "Luxury Nightclub Grand Opening," she read aloud. "VIP invitation." Vanessa's eyes sparkled. "We're going." Veronica smirked. "Saturday night." Glory hesitated at the door. "But how? The gates are locked." Mary looked up, her expression hard. "Don't ask questions." Glory retreated to her corner. She had seen enough of their defiance to know they meant it. She sat on her bed, staring at her biology textbook but hearing only their laughter. The hostel light flickered overhead. Outside, the night wind rustled the trees, whispering secrets. For the first time since she arrived, a sliver of fear crept into her chest, not for her grades, but for the three girls whose power seemed untouchable, yet whose choices were drawing them toward something she couldn't name. She pulled the blanket over her shoulders, but the cold feeling stayed. Saturday crept up like a shadow. All through the day, Queen Prestigious buzzed with the usual weekend routine, laundry flapping on lines, girls gossiping in clusters, the smell of fried beans drifting from the kitchen. Teachers had gone home early. The hostel matron shuffled about with her clipboard, checking beds, oblivious to the plan brewing in room B12. Glory sat at her desk copying biology notes, but her eyes kept flicking to the other side of the room. Vanessa had a small suitcase open on her bed, filled with clothes no student was supposed to own, a sequined top, a miniskirt, a silver clutch bag. Mary sat cross-legged on the floor, dusting powder over her face, the air thick with perfume. Veronica, calm as always, scrolled on her phone, checking something over and over, perhaps the address, perhaps the cab. Glory's pencil trembled in her hand. She wanted to speak, to warn them, but the memory of Veronica's cold smile and whispered threat clenched her throat shut. She lowered her head and wrote another line of notes she would not remember. At dusk the hostel bell rang for dinner. Most girls trooped to the dining hall. In room B12, the trio stayed behind. Vanessa slid into her sequined top, pulling it down over her hips. Mary zipped up a black mini-dress and twirled before the cracked mirror. Veronica applied lipstick so dark it looked almost black. "You girls look like you're going for a movie shoot," Glory murmured before she could stop herself. Mary turned sharply. "And you look like a boring librarian. Face your books." Vanessa laughed. "Let her talk. By Monday we'll still be the queens, and she'll still be a mouse." They stuffed makeup kits and perfume bottles into their bags. Veronica pulled a scarf over her hair. "Let's go before Gateman sleeps off." Glory's stomach twisted. "But the gates are locked." Mary smirked. "Who said we're using the gate?" Vanessa slung a leather jacket over her shoulder and winked at Glory. "Keep our secret, scholar girl. Or else." She trailed a finger across her throat. They left the room in a whisper of perfume and high heels, closing the door softly behind them. Glory stared at the empty bunks. Outside, the hostel buzzed with clatter and chatter, but here the silence felt heavy. She stood, went to the window, and peered out. In the fading light she saw them slip behind the hostel block, their silhouettes long and thin. They moved like a single dark shape. Beyond the backyard fence a small taxi waited with its headlights off. Vanessa climbed first, then Veronica, then Mary, their skirts flashing briefly as they straddled the concrete. They dropped to the other side and ran to the car. A door slammed, the engine coughed, and the vehicle rolled away into the night. Glory let the curtain fall. Her heart thudded. She sat on her bed, clutching her book to her chest. She imagined them in the city, among strangers and flashing lights. She whispered a prayer under her breath but felt no peace. The club was nothing like the hostel. Music pulsed like a heartbeat. Laser lights crisscrossed the ceiling. The air smelled of alcohol, sweat, and expensive cologne. Men in designer shirts leaned against the bar, holding glasses of something golden. Young women in glittering outfits laughed, their wrists heavy with bangles. Vanessa led the way through the crowd, hips swaying, eyes bright. Mary grabbed her hand and squealed as a tall man with dreadlocks handed her a drink. Veronica hung back slightly, scanning faces, calculating. "VIP section this way," a bouncer grunted, ushering them toward a velvet rope. They slid in without question. Cushioned seats, low tables, bottles of wine already open, this was a different world. Mary took selfies, tilting her chin to catch the blue light. Vanessa clinked glasses with a man who smelled of musk and money. Veronica accepted a cocktail with a small nod. "See," Mary whispered over the music. "Nothing to worry about." Vanessa laughed. "We're born for this." They drank, danced, and posed. Money exchanged hands. Compliments rained down. Someone slipped a gold bracelet onto Mary's wrist. Veronica tucked an envelope into her bag. Vanessa closed her eyes as a flash went off from a stranger's phone, capturing them mid-laugh. By the time they returned to the taxi, the city had become a blur of neon and noise. The driver sped through dark streets. Mary's bracelet glinted. Vanessa hummed. Veronica's phone buzzed with new messages. Back at school, the fence loomed again. They climbed it with giggles, high heels in their hands. "We're legends," Mary whispered. "No one will ever know." Glory knew. She heard the door creak open at 3 a.m. She saw the flash of sequins as they tiptoed in, smelled the alcohol on their breath. They fell onto their bunks without washing, still laughing softly. Glory lay still, eyes open in the dark, a knot tightening in her chest. Over the next weeks, the pattern repeated. Saturday, Tuesday, even Thursdays, they slipped out at night, returned at dawn. Flashy cars waited beyond the fence. Perfumes changed, gifts multiplied, new shoes, new phones, crisp Naira notes stuffed into bags. They whispered about boyfriends, and parties, and connections. They smoked by the window, the tiny red glow of the cigarette tipped like a secret signal in the dark. In class, their eyes drooped. They forgot to hand in assignments. Vanessa once fell asleep during a test. Mary's grades slipped from A's to C's, then to D's. Veronica's neat handwriting turned into scrawls. Teachers muttered but looked away. Glory tried to bury herself in her books, but the room smelled of perfume and smoke. Sometimes she wanted to run to the principal, but the memory of Veronica's threat froze her. What if they lied? What if she lost her scholarship? She thought of her father's proud face at the gate and stayed silent. One afternoon after prep, she found Mary sitting alone on the bunk, scrolling through photos on her phone. The bracelet still glinted on her wrist. Her eyes looked tired despite the makeup. "You're going out again tonight?" Glory asked softly. Mary glanced up, her expression unreadable. "Mind your business." Glory hesitated. This life you're living, it's dangerous. Mary's laugh was short and sharp. Dangerous is being poor. You won't understand. She turned away. Glory's words hung in the air like smoke. Saturday night came again. This time the excitement felt different, heavier. Vanessa was on the phone with someone, her voice low. Veronica packed a small overnight bag. Mary adjusted her dress 3 times before she was satisfied. They looked less like girls playing dress-up and more like women heading into something irreversible. Glory sat on her bunk, clutching her Bible. Her stomach churned. She wanted to shout, to block the door, to beg them not to go. But she sat still, lips pressed together, tears burning behind her eyes. "Don't wait up, scholar girl," Vanessa said with a smirk as they slipped out. The door clicked shut. The perfume lingered. Saturday night in the city glowed like a promise. Billboards blinked, cars honked, and music spilled from open bars. In the back seat of a silver SUV, Vanessa adjusted her dress and glanced at her reflection in the window. Mary dabbed powder onto her nose. Veronica's phone buzzed again and again with messages from King J, the boy she had been texting for weeks. "We're VIP tonight," Vanessa said, her eyes sparkling. "No more small club. We're going big." The car turned down a narrow street lined with neon signs. A tall man with dreadlocks opened the club door for them. "Welcome, Queens," he said with a grin. Inside, the club was hotter, louder, more dazzling than any they had seen. A private area had been reserved for them, bottles already open on the low table. Their boyfriends were waiting. Jay, slim and smooth-talking, kissed Veronica on the cheek. Toby, the one with the gold watch, wrapped an arm around Vanessa. A third, nicknamed Cruz, slid a drink toward Mary. "To the Queens," Toby toasted. "To the Queens," the others echoed. The music throbbed. Lights strobed. Vanessa laughed until tears ran down her cheeks. Mary took selfies, her lipstick smudged. Veronica danced with Jay, their faces close, while a waiter kept topping up her glass. "Slow down," she giggled once, but the drink was already burning down her throat. At midnight, the boys suggested moving somewhere quieter. They guided the girls out to a waiting van. Vanessa, tipsy, thought of the hostel fence and giggled. Mary leaned on Cruz's shoulder. Veronica clutched Jay's arm, the world spinning slightly. The van stopped at a hotel on the city's edge. A neon sign flickered above the entrance. They were ushered into adjoining rooms with plush beds and heavy curtains. More bottles appeared, more glasses filled. "Relax," Toby said, pouring another drink. "You're safe here." Mary laughed weakly. "I think I've had enough." But the room blurred, voices faded. One by one, the girls slipped under, lulled by alcohol and exhaustion. Morning light sliced through the curtains. Veronica opened her eyes first. Her head pounded. The room smelled of stale perfume and sweat. She sat up slowly, realizing she was not in her dress but in a hotel robe. The other bed was empty. Jay's sneakers were gone. Panic rose like bile in her throat. "Vanessa." "Mary," she croaked. In the next room, Mary was curled on the floor by the bathroom, her makeup smeared, her phone cracked. Vanessa sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, arms wrapped around herself. Their purses had been emptied. The boys were gone. "They took everything," Vanessa whispered, her voice hollow. "Money, phones, everything." Mary whimpered. "I don't feel right." Veronica pressed a trembling hand to her own stomach. She remembered flashes, Jay's laugh, a camera flash, the smell of alcohol, then nothing. Cold realization seeped in. She pulled the robe tighter, feeling sick. By noon a taxi dropped them near the outskirts of the city. Their hair was tangled, their shoes missing. They walked the last stretch back to the school gate in silence, heads down, like shadows of themselves. Back in room B12, Glory jumped to her feet when the door opened. She had been awake all night, praying, pacing. The 3 girls entered without a word. Vanessa went straight to the bathroom. Veronica crawled into her bunk. Mary lay on the floor, clutching her stomach. "What happened?" Glory whispered. No one answered. The smell of alcohol clung to them. Glory fetched water, a cloth, but they turned their faces away. For the first time, the queens looked small. Days turned into weeks. Their laughter disappeared. Mary stopped going to class, claiming stomach pains. Vanessa stared out the window for hours, her boldness gone. Veronica avoided everyone, whispering on the phone in the corridor, then crying softly at night. Then the news broke inside room B12 like a bombshell. Vanessa, her eyes red, showed them a test strip hidden in her palm. "Positive," she whispered. Veronica sat down hard on the bunk. "Mine too." Mary burst into tears. "The nurse says I have an infection. A bad one." They clung to each other, their former arrogance crumbling. The boys had blocked their numbers, deleted their social media profiles. Gifts returned to curses. Dreams turned to nightmares. Glory sat at her desk, silent. She had no words for their pain, no way to fix it. She only knew that the path they had walked so fearlessly had ended at a cliff. One evening the matron called Glory to the office. The principal sat behind his desk, hands folded. "You were their roommate," he said gently. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Glory's eyes filled. "They threatened me every time," she whispered. "I was scared." The scandal spread through the school like wildfire. Assemblies were held. Parents stormed the gates. Phones were confiscated. Night checks doubled. Posters went up about consent, alcohol, and trafficking. Room B12 became a warning whispered in corridors. Vanessa, Veronica, and Mary were sent home. Their families arrived in expensive cars but left with bowed heads. The queens of Queen Prestigious were gone. Glory returned to her desk. She opened her biology textbook, but her hands shook. She had survived the lion's den, but she felt no triumph, only a heavy sadness, like ashes after a fire. This tale is a warning and a guide. It reminds young girls that beauty, attention, and quick money can be traps in disguise. Focused on your studies, build your dreams patiently, and choose your friends wisely. If this story moved you or taught you something, don't let it stop here. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you'd like more true-to-life stories with powerful lessons, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next one.